Jarrod, fantastic to meet you. Tell us a bit about you. Tell us a bit about your journey into the procurement, supply chain, sustainability intersection, for want of a better word.
So I'm the Procurement Director of Santander UK. We began building out our team in response to cost pressures that we were having globally and locally. And one of the big drivers of cost that people don't talk about a lot is carbon. So when you burn a fossil fuel, emit carbon, it costs you a lot of money, and it's an industry where prices are quite variable. So as part of what we were looking at, we looked at how could we make the operations that we had more efficient, how could we make sure that we had a dedicated role and people that we had in the team who made sure that we were educating our suppliers to make them as sustainable as possible, because that had a net impact on our cost base. So as we've grown out the team and we've grown out our vision of where we want to be, we've looked at that carbon as an issue, and Santander, one of our key goals is to be net zero by 2050, so we're fully behind that, and that helps us to get to this point. But also, locally, we want to make sure there's financial inclusion, and we help the communities that we work in understand finance and understand how they can best skill themselves for skills of the future, sustainability being obviously a key industry that has the potential to grow in the UK. So overall, the intersection between procurement and sustainability is huge, and I'm very fortunate to work in an organisation that understands that and has invested money in making sure that we come together.
So you've just come from your session for today. Can you just give us a bit of an insight, there's that word, insight, into what you were discussing?
So, more or less what I've just said. So, for a procurement professional now, it is not enough just to save money on cost and reduce cost. That is the base that everyone needs to be at. You need to be reducing cost, but you need to be talking about holistic value. And for me, holistic value expresses itself in the impact that you have in communities, the impact you have in carbon, and the way that we trade and do business, on top of cost reduction, targeting the appropriate value for what we do.
Can you just give us a sort of a brief rundown into maybe just some of the other ways in which Santander is integrating sustainability into its procurement and supply chain operations?
Yes, so we use market available scorecards to look at our supply chain. We have a fantastic partnership with our sustainability team in general. So obviously we calculate our Scope 3 emissions, and we've got a great partnership with a fantastic sustainability team in the organisation. We need to make sure that we understand our impact on our environment, our impact on the communities that we live in, and procurement's a driver of that. The largest driver in Santander is financed emissions, but procurement is a key driver that sits behind that, and it's really important for us to engage with that. When we talk about financed emissions and how we lend to our mortgage portfolio, we've also engaging with our supply chain to enable a home ecosystem, so people have the awareness, hints and tips to help them make smart choices in their homes as well. So it's a very interwoven piece of our organisation.
You mentioned Scope 3, just how big a problem, just how big of a challenge is Scope 3 these days for organisations? After all, they make up a huge percentage of emissions output, from top to bottom. It's sort of difficult to get your head around at times.
So, Scope 3 is different for different people. So, my personal view is there has been a lot more progress in direct. So, where you're purchasing direct products, there's a lot greater understanding of the product emissions that link to that. Indirects, I think, are still making proxy calculations based on company emissions, and that for me is a huge challenge in Scope 3. It's getting to the point where you're purchasing indirect, you can get specific about the emission per product, and that's an area of growth that I see.
You're, of course, Jarrod, just finally, you're well placed to kind of, you're in the know, what's perhaps on the horizon before we do. What trend should we maybe be looking out for in this space, in this intersection of supply chain and sustainability?
So, trends that I think that are happening right now, I'll tell you, and then I'll tell you things that I think should happen that haven't happened yet, but I'm hopeful they will happen. So, I think we're seeing now a lot more industry partnerships where we're bringing together buying communities across financial services, for example, but there's also one in pharma. I know that others exist in FMCG, where people are collaborating about the questions that they ask their suppliers and how they influence sustainability. So that's what's happening now, and I see it growing across industries. What for me should happen in the future is we should move away. Once we've established these industries, we should then stop doing it, and we should focus on taxonomy. By taxonomy, what do I mean? I mean type of thing that you buy. Because fundamentally, there is no difference for cloud data center in pharma, cloud data center in FS, cloud data center in FMCG. All the drivers are exactly the same. If we can get to the point where we collaborate on a taxonomy level, we will truly, really make a difference.